Welcome to Root to Fruit, conversations with everyday people who shape the Vine School community.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. It's always a privilege for me to chat to parents in any kind of form or shape or way. Always interesting for me as well to chat to parents who started at the school before I became a principal, just to hear your journey in terms of how you got to the school and what led to you guys enrolling. So maybe let's start there. For everyone out there listening, just tell us what made you think about the Vine School, how did you cross paths with the school, and just kind of your journey up to where your eldest was enrolled.
Do you want to go first?
Happy to. So we have two daughters at the Vine School. One is in grade 2 currently, and one is in grade RR. And we didn't actually know about the Vine, and we bought a house about 1 kilometer away without realizing there was a school here. And then in the process of starting to think about schools and schools in the area, we were introduced to the idea of Christian education and sort of classic education from a friend. And that piqued our interest, and when we started researching, we realized the Vine was right here. And upon investigating the philosophy and the school itself, it seemed that it was really a gift from God that we bought so close without even knowing the school. And so that was kind of the very top line level of how we found the school. Do you want to speak to why we chose it? And I actually don't remember the question. Sorry.
Filter.
Sorry.
I think maybe I just add that I think we realized that with kids, there's such a limited time where you get to actually influence them, especially before high school and that. And we just wanted to take the most opportunity for our kids to experience all the people in their life talking about the same thing and focusing our lives around Jesus and what that means. Yeah.
They say that the best church and the best school is the one closest to where you live. So you guys really hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
So what was it about? Did you only start thinking about Christian education specifically after the conversation you guys had with your friends, or was it always something that's kind of been in the back of your mind, or was that conversation kind of what led to, okay, now let's obviously sort of reaching an age where they need to start going to school? What sparked the curiosity, if I can say it that way?
I mean, maybe I can answer the part of, do we think about it before? I think before we've kind of been in circles where, and we've thought about it ourselves as school being a missional opportunity. So if our kids didn't go to school, a Christian school, there would be opportunity for our kids to both be ministers, but we could also be people who are, there's a mission field in secular school. But I think the fact that there's just so much out there and there are so many voices competing for the attention of our kids that it was just a realization of the urgency and the importance of creating very strong foundations for them. Like, they're too little to kind of be thrown, I think, in the deep end. Well, that was our experience anyway. We wanted that for our kids to be in an environment where there was unified messaging and was messaging that we agree with, because in a big school, a school where we don't have influence over the curriculum, or they get bombarded with a lot.
I think I actually went to a Christian school for a period of time growing up, and it was a good experience, but it didn't seem. My overall ideas of Christian schools were like, it's a little bit lightweight and it's kind of like a bit of Bible sprinkled onto, everything else, and also a little bit of moralism actually. And so I never, when we had kids and kind of were thinking about schools, I never actually thought, oh, we must go to a Christian school. I kind of thought they're probably lame, to be honest. But then when we were told about sort of this idea of Christian education and classic education, and this idea of a love for learning and a completely different philosophy of learning rather than just learning but with Bible class, that was really interesting. And then when we came and we I think we did an induction or some sort of open day, and to see the classrooms, to see the teachers, and to actually learn about the philosophy was really like exciting. Yeah.
So how would you say when you started learning about the philosophy, and obviously with your eldest coming to the school, how has that challenged you as parents in the way that you do go about discipline in home and that kind of thing?
I think we did those nights of the Charlotte Mason book.
For the children's sake.
Yes, and I think what was really foundational from that is this idea that not to treat your child as this half person that is one day going to be a whole person, and to kind of dumb down ideas or to withhold ideas. Obviously, you need to be sensitive and to what age they're at, but to treat them as whole individuals with desires and wants and intellect. And I think as a parent, my temptation sometimes is to either just brush things over, and kind of, because it's a mission to explain the whole thing, or worried that they're not going to understand and then they're going to ask more questions and that's going to lead, so I just kind of would brush it over. But actually to say, you're a whole person and you're inquisitive, and even not just on curiosity, but things of anger and disappointment and things like that, to say, it's fine to feel that way. It's maybe manage how we demonstrate it, but to affirm rather than to try and manage all the time.
I think for me, that discussion time was so helpful, also just to be with other parents and to learn. I think that the whole idea about education being equally as much about our character development as it is about learning was really awesome. We loved that. And building healthy habits in our kids that actually would bear fruit much later.
We've also said the idea of natural consequences. I think this was something Mr. Smith in our first meeting with him as principal helped us to understand. I come from a time when discipline was very much black and white, and something was right and wrong, and there was the consequences were sort of punishment to a degree, but in a healthy way. But this idea of actually coaching your child to see that if you do something, there is a natural consequence to it.
Both positive or negative.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's been a wonderful mindset of parenting, because it's not just no because dad says so, or no because mom says so arbitrarily, but it's like, no, there's reasons for that, and there's consequences if you listen or if you don't listen. Yeah.
I think also what stood out to us, sorry, I'm going to just jump in with the last one, is that whole idea that actually learning beautiful things is amazing, but the process of learning is as important as the outcome itself. And we love that there's a sense of practice that's been built into the curriculum at the Vine. And for our kids especially, I think our oldest has a tendency towards being a perfectionist and wanting an outcome that is perfect without necessarily enjoying the process. And we've seen that really change in her. She's investing time and getting better at things because she knows that actually learning is about improving over time as opposed to just being perfect at something straight away.
Sure. Yeah, that's, you kind of led into my next sort of stuff that we discuss as well. So, I mean, for your youngest, it's been a short space of time so far. It's only been, a semester now, 6 months. And then your eldest, what has been some of the key, you've mentioned one now, what has been some of the key things that you've seen them grow in and transform in terms of their character and their interactions with friends, family, with yourselves at home? Maybe a few real life examples, or, in terms of things that they struggled with. Sometimes kids don't always have immediate obedience, or they fight against some natural consequences sometimes. So maybe just a few real life home scenarios, if you can picture for us, for how you've seen what's done at school, obviously being reinforced by you guys as parents at home, how that's helped them grow as well as persons.
Do you want to go?
I don't know. Maybe one thing that definitely is true for our kids is just that they've grown so much in confidence, the ability to present themselves, to ask questions, to explain how they're feeling, I think the whole idea of telling back and narrating that is taught at the school, where they have to encode information and listen to instructions and be able to execute them, that for us has been really helpful to reinforce at home, to say, actually, we listen first time. But also just their confidence and ability to engage with other people. I mean, I think in the beginning, our eldest was really shy, like really reserved. And we can see now she stands up at Shakespeare Fair and in front of 300 people or however many people will, do a soliloquy or something. Just seeing her confidence in herself has increased so much. Yeah.
Yeah. The other day, our little one was struggling with like not brushing her teeth or something, and I overheard the older one saying, there's consequences to everything that we do. And so I thought, okay, that's great. She's definitely clocked that idea.
I also think that they have, I mean, this sounds like maybe a silly example, and maybe I'm not actually answering the question, but their vocabulary is just so amazing. Their ability to engage with stories that I think some of their friends would really struggle with. They're not, what I love about the school is that you guys don't shy away from hard topics or the books that they read. They have to engage around some serious stuff, even at their little age. And I think that's so valuable, even just reading stories. Like, we love reading to them at home. And there's a curiosity about not just it being a nice story, but the story being worthwhile, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's hard to say. I think the confidence is a big thing. It's hard to pinpoint certain things, but things that I've appreciated is that engagement with beautiful things, and our eldest, who's just turned 8, for the last 2 years has been asking for classical songs, and these beautiful names of songs, like the last we're driving.
Ascending.
Yeah, she says, my favorite song is Lark Ascending by Ralph someone, and then, Dad, can you put on the last 7 words of Christ by some composer? So just that sense of they're engaging with such, amazing,
rich stuff,
rich content is great. I think also there's a robustness in her as well. Ideas of death and those kind of things don't seem to, it's not glossed over, and it's not something to be hidden away entirely. And so I feel like just in our life, when they've, when the dog, might be on its last legs or whatever it might be, the kids, there's a robustness there, which is great. And I do love it when we maybe are with other friends and our kids ask what their kids are learning in music class, and and then they say like, Lark Ascending, or The Bees is my favorite, and it's really beautiful stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially in this day and age where there's so much, how can I say, junk food out there for our kids to feast on. It's really a special thing once, if they are fed with the right mind food, how they just take to it. If you tell them from a young age, this is what's good, this is what's true, this is what's beautiful, they'll be like, oh, okay, and they'll go. Yeah, it's encouraging to hear this as always. So maybe if you had to give parents who are looking for a school or looking for alternative, maybe there are parents out there who are in a school where it's the usual curriculum and with a bit of, as you said, Christian icing sprinkled onto it. What would be maybe 1 or 2 words of encouragement or advice if there are parents out there seeking for something different and seeking for something that is, like you said, classical education? Especially considering the temptations and the things that schools draw people to that are out there. What are some of the challenges as a parent looking for a school, and what are some of the things that you would say that they should consider as they navigate?
I mean, I think for us, the fact that, I mentioned it before, but the fact that if you're choosing a Christian education, there's such an amazing opportunity for kids to grow in depth, not just at home, but at school as well. be part of a community also that feels like life is integrated. It's not like you go to church and then you come back and that's the only kind of exposure, or like, discipleship in the home. But I think the Vine is a great school if you're wanting to invest in your kids having a really strong, or like you just want unified messaging to your kids, I think. I would say that if they are looking for a school where kids get very intentional education, I think that would be an amazing opportunity to come to the Vine. Smallish classes, I think what the maximum is 16, per class. That I think would really help. I think if they're looking for a school where there's like lots of sport and extracurricular and all that kind of stuff, it probably wouldn't be the school for them. Our kids just are more generally wired this way, and so we've seen our kids thrive and flourish in this environment. It's been great.
Yeah, I think, let me think about this. I think what's so appealing to me about the Vine is how intentional everything is. And sometimes I get the sense from some schools is like they're a little bit overwhelmed. There's hundreds of kids in a grade. Everyone's doing their best, and people become teachers because they love it and they want to, and they're doing their best. But there's just a sense of, you've got to get through things, and you've got to kind of make sure the guys at the back of the class aren't too far back and the guys at the front aren't too far ahead, and you kind of are just like herding sheep.
Yeah, it's hard.
Whereas I feel at the Vine, the smallness and the focus is really a benefit and a blessing. There's such intentionality with the way the rooms are set up and the way that lunch boxes and bags are. So basically, the levels of distraction are minimized. I feel like we don't deal with half the sort of playground and classroom distractions that a lot of schools deal with, and that means that the kids can engage and they can interact and they can learn and develop a love for learning. I think that's also been a real blessing, is that at the Vine, the kids don't just learn, but they learn how to learn and they learn to love to learn. And I think that's one of the biggest blessings. They're not just getting through a curriculum to write an exam, to pass an exam, to move on. They're developing skills that to put on display and to learn. So I think if you're looking for something where your child will thrive in that kind of environment, it's a brilliant option.
Can I say one thing? One of the things that really impressed me about the Vine is that you guys have a director of instruction. I work a little bit with my work in the education space, and just the importance of having teachers who are coached and supported, and where it's not only about teaching, but it's also about learning, like the quality of teaching and learning together. That was a really bonus point for me, because I just realized actually you guys are investing not only in your learners, but you're investing in your teachers as well, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, Mrs. Smith, she's, like I said to everyone, not only my right hand, but right hand, left hand. We have, she herself and Mrs. Zeister, they are finishing their last year of the Master Teacher Training Program.
Very cool.
In July, they'll be graduating. And we have two others who are finish their second year, so by the end of next year, we would have about 80% of our teachers have completed the Master Teacher Training Program.
It's amazing.
Something you mentioned now that made me think, and now it's gone.
Sorry.
It was something. It was a question that I don't usually ask. We'll just cut this part out. When I'm trying to remember what I want.
I do the editing.
Have a blooper reel at the end.
Yeah, we should do a bloopers one. Oh man.
It's not about love.
Oh, exams.
Oh yes.
So your eldest is now, she did exams for the first time last year. Now exams are just finished. What's been your experience, especially hearing from her? What's your understanding of how the school goes about exams, and how she experienced it, sharing at home? It's been.
I can start. I asked her, because we got the mail saying that exams are starting. So I said, what are you writing first? She said, I don't know. And I thought, oh my gosh, you don't know what's going on. How are we supposed to prepare? To be honest, I didn't realize that she wrote exams last year. So obviously it was not a big event, and she didn't stress out about it. But she said they don't tell us when we write exams, and I thought, what's going on here? And then I think the next day you sent a mail explaining the philosophy of we don't put out a schedule so that they can cram for it, so that they can immediately forget it as soon as they walk out, but it's more an opportunity to display what they have learned. And it was really amazing, and our eldest, every day was a bit of an excitement. She was like, I wonder what we're going to write today. And when she got in the car and I said, how did it go? And I mean, we haven't seen the results, but she was very excited, and she seemed like she said she was confident about it. So even just the questions that I found myself asking is not like, how much did you know, and did you think you got it all? It was more a case of like, did you enjoy it? How did you feel you did? How confident were you? And I think that's been really eye-opening and amazing.
I think maybe in contrast, there's no anxiety about exams. She's really excited about the opportunity to share and express what she knows. And I really appreciate that, because I think that is in quite stark contrast to kids where there's a lot of pressure on exams, and it's quite a stressful activity. And for parents too, like parents scheduling cram sessions and all that kind of stuff with their kids, it's hard work. It's like you as a parent are also writing exams actually. But I think I love the fact that there's no fear. She's not afraid of writing exams. It's just part of life.
Yeah, it reminds me of, I think it was Winston Churchill who said if only issue he had with exams is he felt as if the teachers were trying to see what he doesn't know.
Yes.
If only he had the opportunity to tell them what he actually knows.
Yeah.
I think that's also a large part of why behind our exams. Closing comments, guys. Maybe something I haven't asked, or something that you wanted to say or get out there. Now's your time to do so, good or bad.
Oh, sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't normally ask questions. Because that's something that I've been navigating as a parent. There was a time when, like, when the kids are very young, you treat them just love them. They're 3 and 4, whatever. And so the question is, in that very young stage, what for you what is the most important thing to you about your child? And then the part 2 is then, as they've gotten older, I'm sure you've seen them, their individual personalities start to take shape, and so you can't just blanket love them like this child needs this and that child needs that. So the question is, part 1 is like, what is the most important thing to you for your children as a duo, and then how would you describe them as unique individuals?
Sure.
Wow, that's not a small question, Earl. Oh my gosh.
It's a big
That's
question.
why I don't
Okay,
ask the questions.
okay.
Close on with a bang.
Yeah. What is the most important for us in the season of having small kids? Have I understood right?
So,
For your children.
For our children specifically.
I'm speaking from my own experience as a parent.
Okay.
Like when they're very young,
important?
our objective was love them so that they can be happy and confident. Like that was it. But I don't think that isn't necessarily the best way to do it. That was just what we did. But then they got older, and like Marley and we were like, okay, we've given her plenty of love, confidence check. Now she needs to learn like humility and stuff.
Yes.
Where Max is like, because he's different.
Yes.
He almost needs more
things.
he still needs confidence, and he needs to figure out how to express himself. Marley needs to figure out when to not say things, because no one needs to hear that, even if it's true. So that's what's been interesting for me, is that you go from the stage where you really just treat them like 2 little kids, but then at some point their personalities start taking shape, and it's like
You react to that.
you're not just like part of a squad, like you're an individual thing that's taking shape
Yes.
in front of my eyes.
Yes.
Sure.
Take your time. I'm in no rush. So think about it, I guess.
Yeah.
I think maybe for me, with them being little, I think it's a lot about secure emotional attachment. Maybe that sounds too psychological. But for me, when they're little, that they're able to regulate emotion, that they're able to express and identify emotion, that they feel safe and confident at home, that they know that we are going to both generously love them and, as a parent, correct them and guide them to the right kind of space. And I think setting those foundations for like the habits of like we are part of a church community and we're a family that prays together, or like I think in those beginning years, our kids are very different now. They are like, and it's actually been really fun to see their personalities come out. But it's true, they now need very different things.
How would you say, what is the oldest need versus the youngest?
I think that the oldest, it's almost like swung actually. I think that in the beginning it was about developing her confidence, like making her feel secure and happy, and giving her a sense of courage and bravery in her heart. And maybe linked to that, it was helping her understand that growing and developing in something is not failure, it's actually winning. That idea of perfectionism. I would say now we're at the stage where we are learning with the oldest to help her develop good habits for herself, but also to just be, because she's a leader, learning to be a servant leader, not just a leader for the sake of it. Would you agree? And the little one?
You go. You'll know. I think for the little one, it's that she does. This is very specific, but she doesn't have to
Concede.
It doesn't have to concede. So giving her a little bit of confidence, and she's finding her own will and those kind of things. I think for her to learn and to know that she doesn't have to be a fool to be loved and liked. So in the sense, a fool in the sense of like making everyone laugh. And I think that she probably gets that from me, is like a little bit of a reticence to be serious and to be taken seriously. So, if you can make someone laugh, it's a sure way for them to like you. And so I think helping her to understand that, she can be serious and sincere, and that's fine.
I think she's our little empath, that one.
Yeah.
And so I think that the challenge for her is going to be, how do you serve people, but not in a way that loses her like own sense of purpose and call. Because I think empaths can sometimes just dive headlong into just,
Going back to the final thought, I think, and this idea speaks to that value of learning, and speaks to the idea that learning is the goal, not writing an exam. We were with some friends and talking about the last week of school after exams, or the last 2 weeks, and they're saying like we could maybe their kids don't do much in that time. Maybe they're like on sports trials and I remember looking at Polly and saying like I don't remember feeling like, oh, we're in the last week, they're not doing anything, and I said, I think our kids learn till the last day. And Polly's like, yeah, they do.
Yes,
They just learn till like maybe that last day. They finish early, but they're learning till that last day. And I was like, wow, that is a different philosophy. It's not just, well, now the exams are done, there's nothing to do. It's like there's still learning to be done, and that was a sort of an eye-opening moment of, wow, the philosophy is really different, and I love it. And so, yeah.
And I think the school accommodates for that, because the small classes, the intentionality, which is awesome.
Yeah.
One of the beauties that you made me think of what you said about exams for me is that after, like you said, it's just like, oh, we're done now, we can carry
Keep
on.
going,
Not just watch a movie or whatever.
Yeah.
And on the very last day, a beauty I've seen is that they actually take some time as a class to reflect on the last term. And so what stood out to you? What struck you the most?
Sure.
Where do you think you can grow? Go away and think about during the holidays. We come back and then we'll share on the first day. Okay, how are you going to grow this term?
Yeah.
So
based
cool.
on what you can see in your exam reports, your growth reports, and so on. As a last question, what is your greatest hopes and desires for your children, and how do you see us as a school coming alongside you.
Also, not a small question.
Great question.
Yeah.
Well done, sir.
Sure. Oh man, the fact that this is all being recorded makes me think like,
Just ignore the
you've
camera.
got to say something
Really
profound
profound.
and something you're going to stand by for years to come. So with the caveat that I'm probably going to refine this 1,000 times over, I think we've done the exercise of one day our children are going to leave home and they're going to go study or move out or whatever it might be, and what do we want them to leave with in their hearts and in their minds. And I think some of the things, because there would be a lot of things that we hope they take with them, but I think the two big ones is they know who God is in a very personal way, and the things I try and tell my girls when they're running out of the car is God made you, God loves you, and God's with you. And so if they can remember those things, I think that would be amazing. And then so they know who God is, and then they know who they are. And I think it's like they know what their strengths are, they know their identity, they know what cannot be taken, and what is good, true, and beautiful in them to steward. And so if we can help facilitate that, and I think the school does an amazing job of that.
Not only their strengths, but I think their weaknesses also.
For sure.
Like the ability to actually see themselves as whole people, but still know that they're secure, that God loves them, regardless. Which then gives you the ability to deal with anything in life, really. Because you can take responsibility where you need to, but you can also really celebrate when you're living in the purpose that God's made you for.
Yeah. Yeah.
When parents answer that question, it always moves me, just to hear your heart for your kids and how you see the school play a role in that until the day that they finish their journey with us. And so, thank you for your time. It was good to chat and just to hear what your experience has been like for the most part, and just how it works when school and home works together.
Yeah, totally.
There's buy-in for the philosophy. I think in anything in life, you're going to pull against each other. It's going to be problematic. So I think the best way we see our children grow is if this partnership works together. And there are hiccups here and there and little bumps in the road, but I think for the most part it's for the sake of the children, as the book would say. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
I
Sure.
look forward to watching us back on the YouTube
With the
channel.
blooper reel this
Oh
time.
gosh. Great. Thank you so much.
As we were talking, I was like, I remember in that the book club thing, one of the points was that Charlotte Mason makes is not to bash other forms of school. She makes that comment like, don't be that insufferable parent who's like, but it's the Charlotte Mason way.
Yes.
And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I hope that we're not coming across as that. Like, it's true. Like, teachers in massive schools have to mark like hundreds of scripts in the last 2 weeks. So I'm not grumpy at them, but I just appreciate that this is not how it works in Vine,
The intended audience will take what they need to take from this.
I think when Drew mentioned that, schools all over do what they can do.
Yeah,
the best of their
absolutely.
ability, given
Totally.
the resources they have and the curriculum they have to follow.
Yeah.
And my hat's always off to any teacher in any school in any
Totally.
curriculum. And we're just fortunate that we have a choice in how we approach it. And there's parents who must decide whether this is for them or not. And there are benefits at other schools as well. And so
Totally.
there's a place in this world for all kinds of different approaches to education in schools. And so
Agreed.
we just one of the vehicles that God uses to shape children and families and hopefully send them out into the world and make a difference.
For sure. Great. Thank you so much.